Hi guys, and welcome to an episode of The Curb, all about culture, unity, reviews and banter. In this particular episode, I'll be covering Russell Mulcahy's 1984 classic Razorback, which has had a really fantastic release via Umbrella Entertainment on their Beyond Genres label, which has had some really great releases already. The Reanimator, Bride of Reanimator, and Dagon. They're the first three releases. Really, really great transfers, brilliant films with fantastic special editions. Also, really great cover art from Simon Sherry, who does some really stunning work. I particularly love this one as a huge fan of Razorback. Now, Razorback came 2 years before Highlander. If you haven't seen Razorback, I highly recommend seeing it. It's a fantastic killer pig film. Russell Mulcahy, of course, as I said, he went on to go and do Highlander, which is a huge genre effort. And Razorback is a huge genre effort in itself for Australia. It's a great horror film for Australia, and one that works really, really brilliantly. And that's all thanks down to the great script by Everett de Roche, who, as an Australian writer who's written some of the best Australian films around, Road Games, Patrick, Harlequin, Fortress, Frog Dreaming, really a lot of the genre films from the 1980s and into the 90s as well, were written by Everett de Roche. And certainly some of the great dialogue that's in this film really, it's fantastic how well he's written such a brilliant script. And it's delivered, if you haven't seen it, again, the plot for this particular film is about Judy Morris, who portrays Beth Winters, who comes to Australia to document the slaughter of Australian kangaroos and try and build a bit of awareness about that. Now, understandably, this gets the local pet meat trade guys a bit annoyed because kangaroo is one of the main things that goes into the pet meat that they make. And that's Benny and Dicko Baker, who's played wonderfully by Chris Hayward and David Argue. These guys are really ochre, rough as guts kind of guys. They speak a disgusting Aussie English. They have a whiny voice that really irritates you. They're filthy, they're disgusting. They sleep in a filthy, disgusting place. You can really feel that they are abattoir workers who have no care for what they do and simply just do it because it's a quick buck. And they also have no care and respect for human life. And, in the first kind of half an hour of this film, we're spending a lot of time with Beth, and unfortunately she gets killed. And she gets killed by the Razorback. Now, it's not after she is, tormented and terrorized by the brothers and almost raped as well by them as well. It's a really traumatic sequence, and one that, certainly in the 80s with the genre films of Australian cinema, there was a lot of sexual assault, lots of sexual stuff occurring, which is slightly concerning, because it certainly doesn't paint a great picture of Australian cinema. It doesn't paint a great picture of Australia as a whole. However, these guys are the villains, and you do expect them to do villainous things. And it's a terrible, horrendous thing that occurs to her. And, it's equal to Bill Kerr, who plays Jake Cullen, who is a grandfather. His kid is killed in the opening sequence, and he's taken to trial and has a vendetta against this giant razorback that has taken the kid. It kind of echoes to Lindsay Chamberlain in some regards. It might be a little bit on the nose, especially given the period as well. Certainly it wasn't that long after Lindsay Chamberlain and the whole dingo debacle, I guess, or fiasco, really took to headlines. So, one could argue that it's monopolizing on a real world event a little bit too much in that regards, but, Bill Kerr does a fantastic job as this old guy with a vendetta. So you really understand why he's pissed off and angry, and you kind of understand why they were monopolizing such a contentious kind of thing, because it is a heartbreaking element that occurs, and it's a heartbreaking reality as well that occurred to Lindsay Chamberlain. So monopolizing on that is slightly understandable. Anyway, Judy Morris gets killed by the Razorback, and it's up to then Carl, her husband, played by Gregory Harrison, to come along and try and find out exactly what happened to her. She went missing. He has no idea. So he comes to Australia to find out and encounters the brothers, the Pet Meat brothers. And really, that's where the whole entire story kind of gets off going. It's about 45 minutes into the film before it actually properly gets going, but regardless, once it does get going, it is very exciting. Oh, you fucking cunt. So it's a good 45 minutes before the film actually gets going. And once it does get going, it really is very exciting. And it's partially thanks to the cinematographer from Dean Semler, who won an Oscar for Dancing with Wolves, did a fantastic job with Apocalypto later on, Mel Gibson film. He manages to really contrast some stunning imagery really, really well. As you can see on the screen behind me, this kind of dream sequence, the nighttime escape sequence that Carl has to go on after he's abandoned in the outback by the brothers who promise him to go on a kangaroo hunting shoot, which is in itself a really traumatic sequence. And Dean Semler's cinematography captures all this stuff really, really fantastically. Daytime stuff is really terrifying, as well as the nighttime silhouettes as well. It's beautiful, and this particular transfer on this disc is given a really, really stunning transfer. I've seen VHS versions of Razorback that was on SBS way back when. I had the DVD version once, it looked fine. And then I had the previous Umbrella release that they released, and it looked really, really lovely. But this is the best transfer I've seen of Razorback. It does a really, really, really beautiful job. I saw it recently on the big screen at Revelation Film Festival, and it's a film that really, really benefits from the biggest screen possible. It looks brilliant, and it sounds fantastic too. Ivor Davies from Icehouse did the score for this film, and it's very, very eerie and frightening in a lot of ways, and sets the mood really, really well. It's also written by Everett de Roche, who is one of the notable screenwriters in Australian cinema. He did films like Road Games, Patrick, Harlequin, Fortress, and Frog Dreaming. A lot of the genre films from the 80s, and certainly he knows his genre, genre cinema very, very well. And Razorback is, a really, really great achievement. A really fantastic film and a great testament to his writing. So, what can you expect from this disc besides a great transfer? Well, it has a truckload of great special features. There's an audio commentary by Russell Mulcahy and Shane Armstrong, interviews with Gregory Harrison, also feature interviews with Russell Mulcahy, producer Hal McElroy, the creator Bob McCarran, composer Ivor Davies, and Judy Morris and Chris Haywood as well. And also there's extended interviews from Mark Hartley's film Not Quite Hollywood, which in itself is a stunning release that you really, really should watch. If you haven't seen Not Quite Hollywood, I highly recommend seeking it out. It showcases what Australian cinema was able to do in the 70s and 80s and what the genre affair was like. And there is a treasure trove of great interviews in that particular film, and that release as well from Umbrella Entertainment is an essential release to pick up. And it's nice to see that with all of the extended interviews that Hartley was able to do for Not Quite Hollywood, that they're popping up on discs like Razorback or Long Weekend as well, which is really great to see. And Long Weekend is also another Elliot de Roche film. Fantastic film, which is another essential pickup on this particular, from this particular distributor, at least. There is also one of the things I absolutely love that they had on the Long Weekend disc, which they've got coming back for this particular disc, and it's a fantastic sort of 20-minute, half-hour rundown and discussion about the film, which is looking back at Razorback with film historians Lee Gambin, Alexandra Nicholas, Sally Christie, and Emma Westwood. Now, I absolutely love what they did with Long Weekend. I love what they've done here with this particular one. It's a great discussion about Razorback, and, Lee Gambin is somebody who's really, really entertaining to follow and listen to talk about film, as well as Alexandra, Sally, and Emma. They know their stuff, and if you're in Melbourne as well, you should really seek out Cinemaniacs, where they do regular screenings of films, genre films and things like that, and have great discussions afterwards. I've never been to one myself, because I live in Perth, but I am itching to go to one eventually. It's on my bucket list of things to do, just because of the talent that these guys have and the wealth of knowledge that they all have as well. They know what they're talking about, and they are excited to talk about it as well. And then finally, the most important special feature that is on this particular disc is Razorback, the VHS cut. Now, the VHS cut is the original 4:3 Australian horror home video version. So there's a bit of extra gore, there's a bit of extra terror in that particular version. Now, because it's from a VHS copy, it's not as pristine as the 4K version, but it is a great watch nonetheless. It's certainly a little bit more interesting in different ways and a little bit more gore-tastic. So, fantastic special feature that's on this particular disc. So, that's Razorback. I give this 4.5 out of 5. I think it is a fantastic film. The film itself is, it's a bit slow to get off the pedal with, but it's very enjoyable once it gets going. And it's mostly because of the cinematography is fantastic. Direction is great as well. The score is superb, the acting is great, and the gore and the horror is fantastic. But I actually prefer enjoying the discussions about this film than actually watching the film itself. I've seen Razorback enough. I've seen it a bunch. But I love the special features that are on this disc. So do yourself a favor and pick up Razorback on the Beyond Genres label by Umbrella Entertainment. It's really fantastic. Yeah. So thank you very much for watching this. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and certainly, as I mentioned, pick this particular disc up. If you want to find out more about what I do, head over to thecurb.com.au or follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/thecurb.au. Same on Twitter, thecurb.au. And also, if you want to send me an email, thecurb.au@gmail.com. I can answer your questions or anything like that. So thank you again very much for watching. Also, Patreon, patreon.com/thecurb.au. It wouldn't be a YouTube video if it wasn't including a Patreon video. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.